everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Adoptions from the Heart TV. I'm your host, Amanda Aliberti. Today, we are joined by Chelsea and James, who are going to share their experience of growing their family through Adoptions from the Heart. So let's welcome Chelsea and James. Hey, guys.
Hey, Amanda. Nice to meet you.
So can you guys start from the beginning of just kind of what was your goal in all of this? Why did you reach out to Adoptions from the Heart? What connected you to our agency? A little bit about those beginning stages before you came to us.
Yeah, certainly. So we were married in 2014, and we always knew we wanted to have a family. We knew that adoption was always going to be part of that. We first went down the route of infertility and found out that my parts did not work the way that they needed to. It was too much of a risk for underlying cancer reasons. And we just said, look, we really want to be parents. We don't necessarily care if the child is of our blood or not. So we took a little bit of time to obviously grieve that. Not having a child that looks exactly like us, which is ironic. We'll get into that in a minute. Took the time, and then right after the pandemic, what was it, April 21, we ended up reaching out to Adoptions from the Heart. Another mutual acquaintance of ours had just done their home study and had gotten placed with a different agency. And we said, you know what, now is the time to do this. So we reached out, we spoke with Joan, who was fantastic. We were home study certified in November of 21. And then, we were waiting.
What specifically attracted you to our agency? I'm curious, was there any piece to the services we provide, whether it was to adoptive families or birth parents, anything that kind of caught your eye that you wanted to highlight?
Well, obviously, the positive reviews of Adoptions from the Heart, that it was a personable agency, that obviously you had all the scholarships and whatnot for the birth mothers because they're the real heroes here. And then also just the diversity aspect were huge draws for us.
Speaking of diversity, James, can you touch on, as an interracial couple, what kind of conversations did you guys have going into this of race and what you'd be open to? Maybe touch on a little bit of the education that you received. Talk to us about that.
Absolutely, yeah. So as an interracial couple, we had conversations and we were really just open to any race. Whether it was a child who looked just like me or just like my wife or someone completely different. We knew that we wanted to be parents first and foremost. And when it came to adoption, we really didn't care too much about race. But as we went through the process, we did receive, there were some great courses and trainings that we went through just to talk about life as an interracial couple and as a, potentially, transracial family. We found comfort there and did our best to also educate our families on that. And as we went through the process and started having our profile looked at, we had further talks and just came to a realization that, again, we just really wanted to be parents and we were open to any race.
That's great. You touched on something really important. Education is not just about the family, but also extended family.
Absolutely.
Yeah, talk to us about that, because people don't really think about that piece. Obviously, families are normally excited and want to know about, when are you going to be placed with a baby? When are you going to become a parent? But the ins and outs of what you guys go through the initial processing, the education you receive is not always offered to the families. So what did that mean for you? Did you do some of that with your extended folks?
Yeah, we definitely did. When we had first announced to our parents that we were going to be adopting, obviously they were elated. They had been a part of the infertility journey, so they knew that we weren't stopping there, but obviously decided to continue. And we did little things. I know Adoptions from the Heart had offered some courses for insight as to what we were doing, but then also it was really just including them in the process. I think that adoption, everybody kind of, wants to put on a smile and it's hunky-dory all the time, but it's ebbs and flows, and there's good days and there's bad days during that process. And I think we really just leaned in our families and was like, here's what we're having to go and think about or decide, or is this what's best for our family? But I think on the positive side, there was this little thing that I picked up at a gift shop right when we announced that we were going to be adopting. They were like little popsicle sticks, and it was things to prepare for a baby, similar to what a husband and wife would pick up, if they were expecting over that 9 months. And we just said, look, we don't know how long this wait is going to be. We're just going to pick one each month, and we're going to do that with our family, whether that's going and picking up a book at a store or a blanket or making a playlist for the baby or packing some food away in the freezer. All the typical preparation stuff that you would have, I think really helped them feel included. And I think that really helped because whenever we had the placement of our children, the first time the grandparents came over, like they were like waiting at the door for us to come home almost. And we need to put an addition on our house. These children are so spoiled because of their grandparents. So it's amazing how it works out. But I think that in our instance, the education classes and then also just the inclusion of like being real about what you're going through, it worked out in our favor.
Great to hear. So let's fast forward to the fun part. Can you give us a brief overview of when things happened in terms of placement and how you became the family you are today?
Sure. So placement with our first son, James. Gosh, I remember I was working. I was on a call. Next thing I know, I heard my wife upstairs, and then I heard fast moving feet running downstairs. And it was just, oh my God. I had no idea what was going on. But then we got the news that we were placed, and whirlwind of emotions, so many questions, but it was perfect. We immediately told our families. We got all the details from Joan, where we needed to be and when, and just
we left like from the time we got the phone call to the time that we were in the car was like 2 or 3 hours, I think.
It was a very fast turnaround. Quickly packed bags. I want to say your sister came over, my family came over.
It was a fury. We have pets, so it was like telling our work, sorry, I love y'all, thanks for the paycheck, but like we gotta go. And oh my gosh, somebody please, make sure the dogs are taken care of. And I just remember we were like folding laundry and making sure that like we had pulled the bassinet out and like that we had clean sheets. And
also, we got the call right after we packed up the nursery.
Yes.
So during
the day before, I packed the last box. We put an offer in on a house to move to a bigger place. It was a fixer-upper. And we were like slowly packing, and I finished packing it on Wednesday, and Thursday we got the call.
Yeah. So we had to quickly unpack boxes and find things, and
it was chaos.
Get bags ready, but it was a super exciting time, and we got on the road as quick as we could and got to the hospital.
Yeah.
And so that was April of 2022 when you were placed
Yes.
with your first child. Tell us what happened. Fast forward to a few days before you were about to finalize the adoption for that child.
Yes, just as chaotic and unexpected. We were having, it was a Sunday. We were having a great time at one of our local museums, and it was a couple days before the finalization, and we get a call from our social worker, and we were both like, oh gosh, what happened? Like, is this gonna get moved back? Like, did the court date change? What went down? And we got the news that there was another, beautiful little baby boy, and we had the opportunity to adopt him as well. And the same, flurry of emotions, and what can we do? How do we do this? Where do we need to be? And a lot to figure out in a very short amount of time, and we were having this conversation in the middle of the museum.
We've since gone back.
Yes, we've since gone back.
We're welcome back. But yeah, it was tears. I mean, our eldest son at that time was 10 and a half months old, so they're 10 and a half months apart. Joan so generously gave us about an hour and a half to figure it all out, which was really very generous of her, like I said. And we were thinking about like, oh my gosh, how are we going to do this? Like, we have a 10 and a half month old baby right now. How are we going to do it mentally, physically, financially? And then we just sat down and started to think about it. Like, this is a biological sibling. We can't not do this. Like, I couldn't live with the fact if there was another bio sibling out there that we may or may not have a relationship with. So we made a couple phone calls to some family friends and transferred some funds, and we're so grateful that we were able to make that happen, because I know that the financial barrier it's unavoidable, but it also is a huge barrier to entry, and having to have those checks prepared. And we do well for ourselves, but we didn't have it liquid, let's put it that way. We had to find the money. Quickly said goodbye to our friends who we were at the museum and ran to Target. We picked up newborn diapers, went to Once Upon a Child to pick up an outfit because his elder brother, we found one that matched. Our eldest son, we had to evict him from his infant car seat, so we had to upgrade him to the toddler car seat. And I think we left like 10 hours later and picked the baby up. And we're there for like 3 hours, and then
immediately turned back around and came home because we had to be here for the adoption hearing, so the finalization hearing. So
things kind of works out for you guys because it's all within Pennsylvania, so you did not have to deal with an ICPC wait. Everything happened very smoothly in terms of coming back, being able to still attend your court hearing to finalize your first adoption.
We were very thankful about that.
And the judge was shocked when we walked into the courtroom with 2 children instead of just one. So
he was like, "What one is this for?" And we're like, "It's for this one this year, and it's gonna be for this one next year."
Wow, what a powerful story. I mean, I will say that a lot of second and third time, even fourth time birth parents that do come back, as an agency, we do try to reach out to the adoptive family of that child so that we can potentially place and keep siblings together. But we also want folks to know that if they're not in the place, whether it's financially or just not wanting to build their family for a variety of reasons, it's okay. We do have other families in our program, and we would try to still connect the 2 families so they can have an open adoption and the children can still know each other. But it's so wonderful that you guys were in a space where you could do it, and you were able to keep these 2 siblings together, and now you're a family of 4.
Yes. 4. We'll see. We'll see if this is the end.
Exciting. That's really exciting. Talk to us a little bit about being a transracial family, specifically for you, Chelsea. Just what life is like for you today, and some of the things that maybe folks are not aware of.
Well, we've been in a relationship for 15 years, and there's a natural learning curve there, just being in a transracial relationship. Being in a relationship and parenting or mothering, the boys is definitely different. Everything from their hair, which is obviously something that is to be treated with respect, to what types of moisturizers. I can go 2 days without putting lotion on. If my boys go 8 hours without putting lotion on, it looks like they were praying in flour. So I have to make sure that, they look presentable to the world. But I think the biggest thing is that every single day I continue to learn, and I will continue to learn. My lack of knowledge on cultural knowledge is not to be a burden on my husband or my sons. That's a me problem. And I don't mean that negatively. I don't mean it in a political sense. I'm just saying that, I am their mother. I am, his wife, and that I need to honor their culture. And they're going to be looking to me as their mother to help guide them in those formative years. And if I'm not educated myself, I'm not able to pass that on to them for them to pass it on to their future families. And that's not to say that James, doesn't have an integral part. In our household, we are fortunate to have, 2 parents, and we come with different perspectives, and, both of our perspectives are critical. Whether it's something, cultural foods or music, toys, cartoons, whatever it is, it's really important to us to make sure that they have, Adoptions from the Heart calls as social mirrors, things that look like our boys, things that have experiences like our sons do. We never wanted them to be in a situation as they got older to be like, why am I the only Black child in my neighborhood? Why am I the only Black child at school? Or why are all of my doctors white? Especially in Western Pennsylvania, you have to actively seek out to make conscious choices. My mother-in-law thinks I'm a little bit loony, but I refuse to have any books in the house that are all white. It has to have inclusion. It has to have little boys that look like our boys, daddies that look like my husband. We have only Black Santa Clauses in the house. Now, I'm not saying that that's what you have to do for your family, but that's what we do for our family. And it's something I'm really proud of, that our boys will never doubt that. They'll never have to worry about the inclusion aspect.
Wow. I mean, Chelsea, it's so refreshing to hear that because, our agency does teach a transracial adoption course. It's part of the requirements that families have to go through when they're considering adopting a child of a different race. But to hear you really living it and really being so conscious of it, even afterwards, like it's not just about being in the adoption agency, getting placement, but like this is your reality and this is something that you truly believe in for your family. It is really nice to hear, and we hope that people will listen to these stories and recognize this is something that will be with you for the rest of your life, and it's a responsibility that you will have the rest of your life. It's not like you check a box and now I'm done, right? I took my course, I watched my video, I'm all finished, I'm done with that piece. So I really do applaud both of you for being so conscious of that.
No, thank you. And we don't view it as something that we have to do. It's something that we want to do. Their birth mom and these boys mean the world to us. And we do have an open adoption. So they're going to know who their birth mom is. They're going to know who their extended family is. On our last visit we went to see birth mom in, what was that, November?
Yes, right before December.
We actually went to her house, for a visit. And there we got to meet her birth mom's mom, so grandma, for the first time. And we had met her dad at the hospital. So we met him for a second time and met her sister and some cousins. And it was a situation where her grandmother was an artist and actually gifted us a piece of artwork to have in our own home for the boy. So we were incredibly honored by that and hang it in our house with pride. And it's Black History Month, and we have all of our board books out and all of our activities, and we have our Black Pride flag hanging proudly. And some people are like, but Chelsea, you're white, like why do you care? I said, are you kidding me? Like literally the people that I hold most dear to my life, this isn't about me. This isn't a show for social media. Like this is about those who I love and letting them know that they are welcomed and they are beautiful just the way they are.
Well said, Chelsea. You had touched on some of the other important pieces to this puzzle, open adoption. Can you share a little bit of an overview of what your open adoption looks like? And for both of you, if you could just describe some of the conversations you've shared with us about the empathy you have for open adoption and birth parents.
Yeah, certainly. So I think at placement, we said, 2 visits a year?
2 visits a year.
And that we would go ahead and do, photographs at least monthly. At the hospital, we did go ahead and exchange phone numbers. And I think we had sent the first text message when we got back to the hotel,
it was
an hour or so later. The moment that we met birth mom, it was as if she had been a part of our family forever. I mean, just the reactions and our conversation was just so natural. Were we both scared? Absolutely. My husband and I were scared, and I know birth mom was scared, but it's definitely a leap of faith that you go through. And we had sent pictures as soon as we got back to the hotel, just doing a little sponge bath. And I don't think the conversations have ever stopped. Text is our primary means of communication, and that works for us. We do 2 visits a year. I know that on our first visit, we had gone to see birth mom. It was the fall right after placement. We went to her city. We had made plans to meet up. We were super excited. And then they ended up falling through last minute. And I don't think that I was prepared for that wave of emotions that came from it. I remember I remember having a full-blown panic attack just because, what do you mean? Why wouldn't she want to see us? How could she not see us? And then I had to my husband was like, babe, this isn't about you. This is really hard. At the time, we came the weekend before her rights were going to be terminated. In hindsight, that was a terrible idea. We thought we were going to have to be at the court date, found out we absolutely weren't allowed to be at that court date. We had talked to her and she was like, hey, I'm not able to meet. And we're like, sure, no problem. We have as much time as we needed. But then I think we were really kind of hurt. How could she not want to see her son? Or how could she not want to see us? Only then to find out that she was carrying baby brother and he was born in March. So we don't know what the reason was. behind whether she didn't have a strong support system beside her, whether she thought that there was going to be shame, from being pregnant and carrying baby brother, looks, whatever it was. But it was something that all we could do in that moment, once I got out of my own head, was just pour love into her. I don't know, while we talk every day, or not every day, probably 3 or 4 times a week, I don't know what her dynamics are at home. I don't know what her support system is. Everything that I get is obviously through her. So she could be, through rose-colored glasses. Everything's great. Yes, I have a huge support system, but she may not. So we just had to take it as, you know what? This is a lifelong commitment. We agreed to 2 visits a year for the rest of their lives, and it's okay. So we ended up seeing her in March, and then we went back again in November of this year. We went to her house, and it was fantastic. And this time we saw her on a Saturday?
Yeah.
Friday or Saturday. And we were going to go back for a secondary visit to do lunch. And at the last second, she was like, hey, I'm sorry, I can't. I'm not in a good headspace. And I was like, not a problem. We'll go ahead. We were going to stop by on our way out of town.
Mm-hmm.
We told her, not a problem. We're going to go ahead and head home. And then I think we FaceTimed later that week. And it was fine. And we have our youngest son's first birthday. I blinked. I can't even believe it's happening. It's coming up here in a couple of weeks. And we sent her an invite to come to our house. Sent her Christmas cards, and we'll invite her to our oldest son's birthday. And I think we're planning a visit out there this summer. Her request. We tried to do spring, fall. But she was like, hey, let's do June, July this year. And we were like, great, awesome. We'll plan a trip to the beach. We are a part, we have a stake in this, but it is so much bigger than just us as a couple. It's what's best for birth mom, and it's what's best for our sons. Fortunately, our sons are little. They're 22 months and 11 months. So they don't quite understand. They do have a biological brother and cousins that they, we see pictures of, and they have pictures of their, in their photo albums that they look at, but they don't understand it. So we want to do what's best for birth mom and honor her heart and her journey. Sometimes you just need time, and that's okay. This is hard. This is really hard.
Wow. I mean, again, just such a powerful story to hear how committed you guys are. I feel like what you're living is exactly what we talk about as kind of the goal. Not to say that every day is easy for you guys, but you truly do understand and respect what this is all about. What would you say to somebody who hears your story? They're like, okay, that sounds great. I don't know about coming back to each other's house or exchanging phone numbers, may feel a little worrisome to me. What advice would you have for that person who's kind of cautious about what this may be like, to kind of have them understand how to get to the point of being more comfortable?
Yeah, well,
before you answer, let me just say, if there was ever a man who was adverse to sharing he was like, we're not doing open adoption, we're not sharing phone numbers, we're not sharing zip codes, we don't even want them to know that it's through the adoption from the heart. And I'm like, you got to take it.
If there was ever a cautious person, it would have been me. That's for sure. So to that person, I say, I completely understand how you feel. I really do think it was a situation where, you just had to kind of play it by ear. When we did first meet birth mom in the hospital, I can say that those worries, those doubts, for us, I'd say they pretty much went away pretty immediately.
She placed the baby in your arms.
Yeah. I can't say enough of great things about birth mom. One of the strongest women I've ever known, given us more than we could have asked for. She openly and willingly placed the babies, in our arms both times. And we've taken her lead on a lot of the openness, but it's really just comes down to what you're comfortable with. I would say, have an open mind. You can be cautious, you can be a little guarded, you can take things slow to start. And things, while I'd say we are maybe a little more open than most overall, I'd say to start we were pretty guarded. Things weren't initially just, we're talking, all the time and sharing all details. But as we got to know her and she opened up with us, we followed her lead there and shared more about us. And I think that bond became closer to where I felt comfortable going to her house on a visit and having her here, if she decides that she's comfortable with that. Because at the end of the day, we've got to the point where we truly do feel that she's genuinely a part of our family. It's not, by proxy or whatever. No, she's just as much of a member as our family as my brother, as my brother-in-laws, as my in-laws. I view them all the same, and I know we're definitely blessed in that regard. I guess that's what I would say is just take it slow to start, but keep an open mind and an open heart, and take the birth parents lead a little bit if you can.
Yeah. To add to that, I think it's just, you have this really unique opportunity, I think, in adoption. When a birth parent is finding out that they're expecting, they have essentially three choices. Your choices, they choose to parent, you can choose to look at abortion, or you can choose to, look at adoption. And I think one of the misnomers is like these children aren't wanted. And it's like, no. These children are absolutely wanted. Birth parents just don't have the means to be able to parent them at that time. And in our instance, I know birth mom waited till, the last possible second until she realizes that I'm not in a situation to where I can parent. So it was in our best interest and in our son's best interest to make sure that she continued to be included in their lives. And yes, there is it's best for the children, but then also we're going to be together for the rest of our lives. There's been instances where we've had, medical questions come up, and I've reached out and I'm like, hey, what about this, that, and the third? Or there's, been some speech delays. Hey, did you experience this with your first son? Or, just little things here and there. So it's been absolutely the right call. I think we were cautious. There were so many unknowns when we were in the waiting process, that to try and picture who this person was going to be and also not have a child, I think your mind just ran to a negative spot, all the terrible things that can happen. And in actuality, it's the exact opposite of this. She wants us to be successful. She wants us to raise her children. She wants us to be in contact with her. She wants to be a part of their lives. It's not an overbearing situation where it's like, oh, hey, I want you to raise our child. I want you to be financially responsible, but I'm going to make all the judgment calls about what this child looks like, or what they wear, what their hair is. And it's like, no. It's she doesn't care about any of that. We send pictures of little outfits and she's like, oh my gosh, where did you get that? I need to get it for Big Brother. And I'm like, Amazon, Target.
You're hitting it right on the head of just, it just seems so real and honest of what you're describing. It's not something that's being pushed on you, because you guys organically realize the benefit of this for everybody. You were able to open your hearts and trust. And now it almost seems like, how could it not be this way? Right?
Yeah. It'll be what you kind of make of it. Your thought process and your how you're going to look at it will dictate how well it will go. And yeah, we've just tried to stay open-minded and realize that yes, it's the best thing for our sons. It's the best thing for birth mom, and it's the best thing for us. And we're going to do what we can to make it work. And we've been blessed that it's worked out so well.
Yeah. And should there ever be a time in the future where maybe the communication isn't as free flowing as it is now, we'll respect and honor the fact that, birth mom is in a place where she doesn't or isn't able to, show that side of her. And that doesn't mean that she won't, come back around. Nobody knows what's going to happen in the future, but, we're thankful that we have today. We're thankful that we have the connection. We're thankful that we have things like artwork and pictures and family history. And we're going to hold on to that and run as fast as we can, as fast as that train goes from here to the end of time.
Absolutely.
Well, guys, congrats on your family. You seem like a wonderful group, and I hope that continues on for you. Thank you for sharing your story. I know this will help other folks who are trying to really understand what life will be like even after placement, as you navigate some of the open adoption things that come up, the good and the bad, right? So thank you again, and we wish you well.
Thanks for having us.
Continue to stay in touch with us, guys, and watch our future episodes.